don't know about you, but I have a lot of expectations from Mortal Kombat 2. As a longtime fan, the 2021 reboot left me pretty cold. Like, was it even a Mortal Kombat movie? Firstly, there was no tournament. And secondly, they focused way too much on Cole Young, a character no one knew or asked for. It was visually striking, and Kano was the star of the show in more ways than one, but then the movie did another good thing. It set up a sequel with an actual tournament. And this time around, we've got more familiar characters, including but not limited to Johnny Cage, Kitana, and Shao Kahn. From what's been teased, there'll be around 27 fight sequences, more brutality, and actual stakes. And in this video, I'm going to explore all the 18 confirmed characters and the actors and actresses who would be playing these characters. But before I begin, please consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons. Those two small clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these marvelous videos. And now, let's begin.
Surrender or face the consequences.
Adeline Randolph as Kitana. Adeline Randolph is set to play Kitana in Mortal Kombat 2, the follow-up to the 2021 reboot of the fighting game franchise. Born in Hong Kong in 1995, Rudolph is of German and Korean descent and has already built a strong TV resume. Firstly, she played Agatha Knight on Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. She was also seen as Minerva Marble on Riverdale, and then as Billy Wesker in Netflix's Resident Evil. Now, Miss Randolph is set to play one of Mortal Kombat's most layered characters. Kitana is over 10,000 years old, but looks like she's in her early 20s, which is usual for other Edanians like her. However, she was raised by Shao Kahn and served him loyally for centuries, unaware he had conquered her realm and murdered her real father, King Jerrod. However, once the truth came to light, she left Shao Kahn, joined Earthrealm's warriors, and helped reclaim Edania's independence. She also liked Liu Kang, so much so that the feelings persisted even after the man died. In an alternate timeline introduced in 2011, Kitana begins as an Outworld champion but defects after learning her true origin. She's later killed by her mother, Sindel, and turned into a revenant by Quan Chi, who is bound to the Netherrealm alongside other fallen heroes. After Quan Chi and Shinnok's defeat, Revenant, Kitana, and Liu Kang are left ruling the Netherrealm. In the timeline created by Liu Kang at the end of Mortal Kombat 11, Kitana is reborn as the twin sister of Mileena, with her place as Outworld's champion intact. As for her creation in the game, Kitana was originally imagined as Kitsune in early concept art by co-creator John Tobias. She wielded a single fan and was planned as the daughter of Shang Lao, a princess to be won through combat. As the story evolved, Shang Lao was axed and Kitsune was renamed Kitana. Even her name went through several revisions. Kitsune was deemed too Japanese for a character who had links with Chinese characters like Shao Kahn, and the name Kitana was too on the nose. The final name, Kitana, was a mix of both Kitsune and Katana, and fits the hodgepodge of Asian mythology that Mortal Kombat is. Annatu Nguyen as Queen Sindel. Annatu Nguyen is set to play Queen Sindel in Mortal Kombat 2, and for fans of the series, this is a character with a lot of baggage, both magical and emotional. As for Nguyen, she made her screen debut in 2022 with The Spy Who Never Dies, and since then, she's been keeping busy with other roles in One Night, Suka, and Get Free. But playing Sindel will probably be her biggest role yet. Originally, Sindel ruled Edania alongside her daughter Kitana and was seen as graceful, noble, and strong in the classic mystical queen sort of way. With her silver hair, calm demeanor, and floating magic powers, she's definitely a force to reckon with. And that's especially because of her scream, which is so powerful that it can shred skin off bone or freeze enemies in place. Then there's her hair, which in Mortal Kombat 3 could extend and grab enemies. And if that's not all, she can also levitate. In early versions of her story, Sindel was forced to marry Shao Kahn after he conquered Edania, and her resurrection was basically linked to his plan to merge realms. Despite the dark circumstances, she eventually broke free, rejoined Kitana, and switched roles. She became one of the few characters to pull a full heel-to-face turn in the series. Then, in Mortal Kombat 11, they changed her backstory and personality to show that Sindel had always been aligned with Shao Kahn, and the whole reluctant queen angle was a lie to manipulate her people and keep Kitana in line. She even liked Shao Shao Kahn's take-no-prisoners attitude and wanted in. Needless to say, this polar shift in who she was didn't sit well with many. Now, in the rebooted timeline under Fire God Liu Kang's watch, Sindel's name has been struck off the naughty list, and she's the Empress of Outworld and rules alongside her daughters, including Mileena, who is now the eldest. Whether this is a clean slate or more misdirection, we'll have to wait and see. But no matter the version, Sindel brings wrath and royalty in equal measure. C.J. Bloomfield as Baraka. C.J. Bloomfield is set to play Baraka in Mortal Kombat 2, and if there's ever been a casting choice that resonates with real-world grit, it's this one. Bloomfield is a Polynesian-Australian actor who's slowly worked his way into film, and his recent major movies were Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, and Streamline. But before all that, Bloomfield lived a very different life. He was once a member of the Hells Angels Outlaw Motorcycle Club, and in 2014, he was arrested for extortion and assault related to a drug debt. A few years later, he was sentenced to 4 years in prison. While in solitary confinement, he started picturing a version of himself that did not belong in the world of crime, but on a movie screen. After his release in 2019, he went after that version for real. In 2023, he signed with Industry Entertainment and was cast as one of Mortal Kombat's most fearsome characters. Baraka was first introduced in Mortal Kombat 2 as a beast of a fighter. He's from the Tarkatan race, a tribe of nomadic mutants living in the outer wastelands of Outworld. Originally described as demon hybrids, the newer games retconned this and made the Tarkatans infected Outworlders and Edanians cast out by the rest of society. Baraka leads the Tarkatan army and answers only to Mileena, who is a warped version of Kitana. Despite his razor teeth, blades popping out of his arms, and all those bone spikes, Baraka isn't driven by bloodlust alone. He's loyal to his people and tends to ally with whoever promises them safety or power. That said, he's not a gentle giant or a pacifist. His blades can slice through most opponents, and in the later games, he picks up new tricks like launching spikes from his back and breaking off, then regrowing his arm blades. He's taken fatalities that should have left him in pieces, but still walks away. With Bloomfield bringing his own battle-tested past into the role, there's a good chance this version of Baraka will feel real and relatable instead of just looking scary. Not many people go from outlaw biker to big-screen mutant warlord. 3 cheers to C.J. Bloomfield. Damon Herriman as Quan Chi. Damon Herriman will play Quan Chi in Mortal Kombat 2, and honestly, it fits a little too well. Herriman's no stranger to strange characters. You see, he's already played Charles Manson twice, once in Netflix's Mindhunter, and again in Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He also voiced Cabal in the first Mortal Kombat movie, although Daniel Nelson was the man in the suit. And now, Damon is all set to get a full-face turn as one of the series' most dangerous and cunning bad guys. Quan Chi is the Netherrealm's most skilled sorcerer. As a necromancer, he lives and breathes the skill. Cold, sharp, and patient, Quan Chi can also be considered as the guy in the Mortal Kombat universe who plays chess and mind games while everyone else is busy throwing fireballs at each other. Needless to say, he's smart enough to never swing first unless he knows exactly where it will land. And when it comes to enemies, there's like so many of them he has to contend with. Sub-Zero hates him for turning his brother into Noob Saibot. Scorpion hates him even more for orchestrating the slaughter of his family and wiping out the Shirai Ryu. So yeah, he's not short on people who want him dead. His combat abilities are also pretty good, but they're not quite his strongest suit. It's his magic where he truly dominates. He can open portals between realms, reanimate the dead, rip souls straight out of bodies, and use those souls for whatever long con he's planning. Quan Chi is like someone who won't punch you, but will let your dead relatives do it for him. He can also shapeshift, project his mind into other dimensions, and do the whole evil clone thing. Speaking of which, did you like the new Superman movie? Moving on, Quan Chi's biggest weapon is manipulation. You see, this guy knows how to talk, and why would he overpower you if he can convince you to destroy yourself instead? With Herriman's track record of playing smart, manipulative, and disturbing villains, I think this version of Quan Chi will take us by surprise. Desmond Chiam as King Herod. Desmond Chiam will be entering the Mortal Kombat universe as King Jerrod in Mortal Kombat 2, which is interesting because Jerrod has always been one of those characters who has lived in the margins. Chiam has a decent resume as he's starred in IPs such as Shannara Chronicles, Now Apocalypse, Reef Break, and even The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But King Jerrod would probably be his most crucial role as far as the story is concerned. Jerrod was once the king of Edania, which, as the name suggests, was a peaceful realm that got absolutely wrecked when they lost in Mortal Kombat to Shao Kahn's outworld forces. Jerrod was killed in the invasion, and after that, things changed forever and for the worse. Sindel, his queen, was forced to marry Shao Kahn, and their daughter Kitana was raised as Kahn's own. Jerrod, for the most part, became a historical footnote. We never actually saw him in the games, but in Mortal Kombat Deception, there's a beheaded statue in Edania that people claim is him. It's basically of a bearded man with a lost face, literally and story-wise. He gets name-dropped a few times across the franchise. In Armageddon, Sindel resurrects him during her ending to reunite the family. In the old Malibu comics and Defenders of the Realm cartoon, his death is shown again, always at the hands of Shao Kahn or his army. So it seems that Jerrod's strongest ability is to get dethroned, murdered, and used as emotional leverage. That said, the new timeline finally tries to do something more with him. In the new era, Jerrod helped Liu Kang set up the tournament, but true to form, he still ends up dead, and his soul doesn't get much peace. Quan Chi eventually hijacks it and folds it into Ermac, which means Jerrod becomes part of a stitched-together ghost blob made of angry souls. With Desmond Chiam bringing him to life for the first time on screen, it'll be interesting to see if Jerrod finally gets treated as more than a Danian cannon fodder. Maybe this time, the guy actually gets a voice before getting soul-sucked. Maybe. Karl Urban as Johnny Cage. When Karl Urban was announced as Johnny Cage for Mortal Kombat 2, the internet had a moment. I mean, there wasn't a lot of outrage or even celebration, and mostly people went, wait, really? After all, Johnny Cage is the sunglasses-wearing movie star loudmouth of the franchise. He's cocky, flashy, and always 2 seconds away from a split punch to the groin. Meanwhile, Karl Urban is known for roles that lean more gruff than glam. Take Butcher from The Boys, or his version of Judge Dredd, and you'll understand what I mean. But with the sequel's first look finally out and a few more story details trickling in, the casting choice is starting to make a lot more sense. According to director Simon McQuoid and Mortal Kombat co-creator Ed Boon, the plan was never to go full cartoon with Cage. They didn't want the character to feel like a walking joke. They wanted him loud and funny, sure, but with something real underneath. And that's where Urban comes in. He's not your standard Hollywood pretty boy, but he's got range, and that's exactly what this version of Johnny Cage needs. Urban's been doing the tough yet layered thing for years. His role as Billy Butcher in The Boys is all swagger and violence on the surface, but underneath, the guy's a mess of trauma, guilt, and broken ideals. That mix of attitude and depth is probably why McQuoid and Boone picked him for Cage. Because while Cage acts like a clown, there's a guy under the shades who's more than a meme. The 2021 Mortal Kombat movie took itself more seriously than the 90s versions. It still had fun with the fights and the one-liners, but the tone was slightly darker. So bringing a version of Johnny Cage who can be funny without breaking the tone of the film is a tough balance, and that's what Urban's being asked to do here. Martin Ford as Shao Kahn. Martin Ford will play Shao Kahn in Mortal Kombat 2, and let's be honest, visually, he already looks like the final boss of any given game. The guy is huge. He's built like a slab of concrete, and is known for his insane transformation from a depressed teenager who went through groin injuries, breakups, and anorexia to becoming a bodybuilding icon. But will Martin, who's loved by almost 4.7 million people on Instagram, be able to channel cruelty, pride, and sheer dominance that's followed Shao Kahn since his debut? That remains to be seen. But Mr. Ford has been in some great IPs, so we know that he can pull off a role, or at least try his best. As for the character itself, Shao Kahn has ruled Outworld with an iron fist for centuries, and in his wake, he pretty much left behind a long line of shattered alliances, failed invasions, and adopted daughters with serious daddy and other issues. Shang Tsung serves him without question, and provides soul magic, dark science, and new weapons like Ermac. Shao Kahn wasn't satisfied with Kitana, so he had Shang splice Tarkatan and Edanian DNA to create Melina. Later, he empowered a blood mage named Scarlet and adopted her too, which proves that our guy might not win the Father of the Year award, but he tries. But despite all that loyalty and fear he commanded, his grip started slipping. In the alternate timeline, Outworld fractures after his death. The Tarkatans side with Kotal Khan. The Shokan walk away. His rivalry with Raiden is mostly what drives the franchise. The two are complete opposites. See, while Raiden protects, Shao Kahn conquers. They've clashed for centuries, with Shao Kahn often holding the upper hand. His attempts to take Earthrealm made him a target of Liu Kang, Kung Lao, and the Special Forces. And his alignment with the cyber Lin Kuei didn't exactly win him fans in Sub-Zero's camp either. In the latest timeline, he's no longer an emperor, but a general named General Shao, someone who is a war-hardened soldier who clawed his way to power from a sickly childhood. Raised by a father who believed strength mattered above all else, Shao turned into a battlefield genius. Tati Gabrielle as Jade. Tati Gabrielle has officially been tapped to play Jade in Mortal Kombat 2, and it's a pretty solid fit. Fans of the chilling adventures of Sabrina already know she can balance elegance, danger, and that whole don't mess with me energy, and if I'm being honest, that's Jade in a nutshell. For those unfamiliar, Jade's been around since the Mortal Kombat 2 game back in 1993. She started out as a secret character, or a palette-swapped version of Kitana, but has since become a major character in her own right. Someone who has her own backstory and stuff. Now she's finally making her live-action debut. In the games, Jade is Kitana's best friend, longtime protector, and occasional frenemy. They're both Edanian warriors, and for a while, Jade worked under Shao Kahn as one of his top assassins. But when she's ordered to betray Kitana, she refuses, and that becomes a major turning point in Jade's story. She switches sides, stands against the Empire, and stays loyal to Kitana all the way through, even if it means fighting people she once called allies. Whether they follow her arc from Mortal Kombat 9 or lean into the stuff from MK11, there is room to explore Jade as more than just a side character. Her romantic connection with Kotal Khan in later games might not play a role yet, but her loyalty to Kitana and her Edanian roots definitely will. Especially if the movie digs into the power struggles in Outworld, which seems likely now that Khan, Sindel, and Baraka are all in the mix. It's still unclear how big of a role Jade will have, but casting an actor like Gabrielle suggests they're not treating her as a background player. Chin Han as Shang Tsung. Chin Han is back as Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat 2. In the first film, Han played him as a calm, calculated being, and yet he was someone who was absolutely terrifying without ever having to raise his voice. Like several veteran actors, Chin Han is someone who has played parts in both Marvel and DC movies. So he played Lao in Dark Knight, as well as Councilman Yen in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. In the Mortal Kombat universe, Shang Tsung is not just another bad guy, he's the one you call whenever you want someone to ruin the whole tournament from the inside. Much like Quan Chi, Shang Tsung is not really big on throwing punches and beating people up with hammers. Instead, he manipulates, deceives, and absorbs souls as his day job. It is kind of his job, actually. You see, he's literally cursed to age into dust unless he keeps feeding off souls. In the new timeline, he's no longer Earthrealm's problem child. He started as a snake oil salesman in Outworld and sold fake potions to peasants until a mysterious figure named Damashi handed him a better deal. Turns out that Damashi is actually Titan Shang Tsung, the version of himself from a previous timeline who lost to Liu Kang and now wants revenge. So what does he do? He mentors himself. That's right, Shang Tsung teaches himself how to become evil again. Once he gets his powers back, Shang Tsung forms a new alliance with Outworld-born Quan Chi and the rebooted version of General Shao. All of them were manipulated by Titan Shang Tsung, whose final goal was Liu Kang's taking control of the multiverse. Long story short, Shang Tsung might not be the strongest guy in the room, but he's always the smartest. And with Chin Han reprising the role, Mortal Kombat 2 might just be his most dangerous appearance yet. Hiroyuki Sanada as Hanzo Hasashi, Scorpion. Back in the day, Hiroyuki Sanada brought a whole different level of gravitas to the role of Hanzo Hasashi, better known as Scorpion. In the 2021 Mortal Kombat film, his performance felt surreal, mostly because everything about him felt to the point as well as control. You believed he was the man who had lost everything. You believed that when he got dragged into hell, instead of screaming, he clenched his fists and waited for a way back. And now he's returning for Mortal Kombat 2, which probably means things are about to get even more personal. Hanzo started off as a man trying to make an honest life for his family. His father wanted him to stay far away from the Shirai Ryu, but Hanzo joined anyway, hoping the assassin life would at least put food on the table. Of course, this decision set the whole tragedy in motion. His wife Harumi and son Satoshi were murdered, and Hanzo was sent to the Netherrealm. What came out of that place wasn't quite human anymore. It was Scorpion, a vengeful specter with a flaming skull and no love or tolerance for diplomacy. For years, he thought Bi-Han, the original Sub-Zero, was the one who killed his family. So naturally, he hunted the guy down and tore him apart during the first tournament. But he soon learns that the real mastermind was Quan Chi, who had been playing him the whole time. In the old timeline, Scorpion gets his revenge by dragging Quan Chi into hell and making him regret every second of it. In the rebooted timeline, he gets restored to his human self before tracking Quan Chi down and finishing the job for good. What I love more about Scorpion than most Mortal Kombat characters is that he's now cut and dry evil. He's angry, yes, and extremely dangerous, but he's also a man who sticks to his code. In fact, when he realizes that the Sub-Zero in the second tournament isn't Bi-Han but his younger brother Kuwei Liang, Scorpion swears to protect him as a form of penance. That's not something you expect from a fire-spewing skull ninja. In newer material, especially the comics, Scorpion basically moves from seeking vengeance to seeking redemption. Mechad Brooks as Jackson Jax Briggs. Mechad Brooks is back as Jax in Mortal Kombat 2, and this time, he's not just punching heads off and flexing steel arms. According to Brooks, the sequel is going big not just in scale, but in story too, especially when it comes to Jax's character. The first movie gave us the basics and told us how Jax was a tough, no-nonsense special forces guy who lost his arms in battle and got them replaced with mechanical ones. Brooks says Jax is in his DNA, and you can tell. He's proud of the role, and for good reason. Jax represents strength, resilience, and loyalty, but he's also got depth that didn't really get explored in the first round. And the good news is, that's changing in the sequel. Brooks promises more of Jax's humor, beliefs, and inner fire. And if you think the first movie had enough fight scenes, the sequel has nearly double, 27 of them. That's a lot of limbs to break. The scale itself of this sequel sounds pretty thrilling. More fighters, bigger stakes, and enough action to rattle the arena. Plus, Jax's role in Earthrealm's special forces gives him room to evolve beyond just being the muscle. There's talk that this sequel could set up the future of the special forces, with Jax at the training of new recruits, rallying Earthrealm's fighters, maybe even laying the groundwork for the kind of resistance that stands a chance against Outworld's chaos.
Kill them.
Tadanobu Asano as Lord Raiden. Tadanobu Asano's version of Raiden brought something different to Mortal Kombat. This was a calm, grounded god who didn't feel like he was seconds away from blasting the screen with thunder every time he opened his mouth. Raiden has always been one of Mortal Kombat's most recognizable characters. Raiden has also served as a mentor, protector, and at times, a deeply flawed god who's made more than a few catastrophic mistakes. The franchise isn't shy about showing the toll that eternity and responsibility can take on a person. Whether it's his rivalry with Shinnok or his ruthless shift in MK10 and 11, after Shinnok's defeat, Raiden has walked the line between noble guardian and cold pragmatist. He's been a lightning-wielding powerhouse, sure, but also someone haunted by the weight of all the things he couldn't prevent. Joe Taslim as Bi-Han Noob Saibot. Joe Taslim made a serious impression as Bi-Han in the 2021 Mortal Kombat reboot as cold, brutal, and absolutely relentless. It didn't matter if he was freezing someone or dragging a blood-soaked kunai through a ribcage, Taslim's Sub-Zero was terrifying in the best way. But for longtime fans, Bi-Han's death was never the end of the story. It was more like the start of something much, much darker. That something is Noob Saibot, and it looks like Mortal Kombat Kombat 2 is finally about to go there. Bi-Han has always had a mean streak. He wasn't like his brother Kuai Liang, the more disciplined, respectful Sub-Zero that took over after him. Bi-Han was colder, not just in power, but in spirit. As a top assassin for the Lin Kuei, he had a reputation for cruelty, and his rivalry with Hanzo Hasashi ended with a death match that kicked off one of Mortal Kombat's biggest feuds. However, it wasn't Scorpion who was the real villain. It was Bi-Han, manipulated and twisted long before death ever touched him. Once Bi-Han dies in the first tournament, his soul doesn't pass on peacefully. Quan Chi swoops in and corrupts it, turning him into Noob Saibot, a wraith forged from pure shadow. All that pride, hate, and bitterness doesn't disappear because all that happens is that it festers, and what comes back is even more dangerous. Jessica McNamee as Sonya Blade. Jessica McNamee returns as Sonya Blade in Mortal Kombat 2, picking up right where she left off in the 2021 reboot. Now, if you've been following Sonya's arc since the original games, you already know that this isn't someone you push around. She's always been the grounded, no-nonsense Special Forces soldier who's ready to throw down with warlords, sorcerers, cyborg ninjas, basically whoever's causing trouble. And in the rebooted universe, she's no longer just Earthrealm's top soldier, she's its general. In the early days of Mortal Kombat, Sonya kinda got stuck with the whole damsel in distress label. The first few games made a habit of kidnapping her and then sidelining her while the guys fought tournaments. But as the series grew, so did Sonya. She got promoted, got stronger, more ruthless when she had to be, and eventually became one of Raiden's chosen warriors, as well as the only woman from Earthrealm in that lineup for a long time. Her rivalry with Kano is personal because he murdered her partner back in the day, and ever since, they've been after each other. And since Kano's Black Dragon clan never seems to run out of goons, Sonya's war never really ends. In the current timeline, she also had a relationship with Johnny Cage, which, shockingly, didn't end in a double fatality. They got married, had a daughter named Cassie, then divorced. But there's still mutual respect there, even if it's buried under sarcasm and military protocol. Cassie's rise as a leader in her own right makes that dynamic even more interesting. In Mortal Kombat 11, Sonya dies during a suicide mission to destroy Shinnok's Bone Temple, but thanks to Kronika's meddling with the timeline, a younger version of Sonya comes back into the picture. Josh Lawson as Kano. Josh Lawson's take on Kano in Mortal Kombat was so over-the-top and chaotic, it ended up stealing the spotlight throughout the 2021 movie. And with Mortal Kombat 2 on the way, it looks like we haven't seen the last of his beer-chugging, knife-wielding madness. Lawson, who's mostly known for his roles in shows like House of Lies and Superstore, and for playing Paul Hogan in Hojis, really leaned into the Aussie lunacy for this one, and it worked like a charm. He made Kano the man you love to hate and hate to love. Kano is a mercenary, a smuggler, a knife freak, and the leader of the Black Dragon, which is basically a black market crime syndicate with less professionalism and more explosions. He is not fighting for honor or redemption, or even survival. He's in it for the cash, the thrill, and the power. He doesn't care about Earthrealm or Outworld, and he'll sell either of them out for the right price. That's how he ends up working for Shao Kahn in the older games, and how he worms his way into every villain's inner circle while simultaneously being one insult away from getting stabbed by his own allies. Appearance-wise, Kano has that cybernetic eye, thanks to Jax smashing half his face in. It shoots a laser, obviously, and he's packed with other cybernetic upgrades too. While most characters rely on magic or chi, Kano goes full tech head and mixes hand-to-hand combat with gadgets and knives. Irrespective of Lawson's version leaning more toward comic relief or going full savage in the sequel, one thing's certain: he won't be boring. Lewis Tan as Cole Young. Lewis Tan's Cole Young was something no one expected from the 2021 movie. A brand new character with no ties to the games, he was the blank slate audiences followed into the world of Outworld, Arcana powers, and magical death tournaments. The movie clearly framed him as the franchise's new face, a fighter who descended from Scorpion himself, who took down Sub-Zero alongside his resurrected ancestor, and somehow didn't soil his trousers while Goro tore through his garage. You don't give a guy that kind of arc unless you're planning to stick with him, right? Well, maybe not, because Mortal Kombat 2 is now into production, and so far, Cole's nowhere to be found in the spotlight. In fact, if you only checked out the early press, you'd probably think Karl Urban's Johnny Cage was the lead. And that makes sense because of Karl Urban's star power. Even producer Ed Boon referred to Cage as the quote-unquote lens of the sequel. Johnny Cage is clearly getting the big hero treatment this time, and Cole feels like an afterthought. Now, Cage taking the central and lead role isn't a bad idea in theory. He's one of the most famous and memorable Mortal Kombat characters, and Karl Urban can definitely sell the cocky action star. But making him the main character over Cole? That's a strange call in every sense, especially when the last movie spent 2 hours setting up Cole as the franchise's anchor. Nevertheless, all we can do is wait and see what the new movie has in store for us. Ludi Lin as Liu Kang. Ludi Lin is back as Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat 2, and honestly, it's the least surprising casting decision of the bunch. Liu Kang has always been the guy, the golden boy and Earthrealm's go-to savior. He's the kind of character you don't bench unless you want the fanbase to riot. Now, if you've followed the games even half seriously, you know Liu Kang has never been a side character. In the OG timeline, he's the Shaolin monk who arrives, kicks ass, wins the first tournament, and goes on to stop Shang Tsung, Shao Kahn, and pretty much every other end-of-the-world threat Mortal Kombat had in store for Earthrealm. But then he dies and gets turned back into a zombie. But he was Liu Kang, so even his zombie version can perform bicycle kicks, mind you. And then, because Mortal Kombat doesn't know how to leave anyone dead for long, he comes back again, this time as a fire god. Yeah, you lose count of his deaths and resurrections after a while, happens with all of us. By the time we reach the end of Mortal Kombat 11, Liu Kang becomes the keeper of time. He beats Kronika, rewrites history, and tries to build a better, cleaner version of reality. And to be fair, he does a solid job. But this is Mortal Kombat, so of course, peace doesn't last. As far as powers go, he's got it all. Good old martial arts? Check. Fireballs? Yep. Shape-shifting into a full-blown dragon? Of course. What makes Liu Kang interesting, though, isn't just his fighting. It's that he's always caught between roles. He's the monk who mediates, but also snaps necks when needed. He's the reluctant hero who somehow becomes a god. And in this rebooted film universe, it looks like he's going to be playing a mentor, a warrior, a protector, and maybe, once again, the one who has to fix the whole damn timeline. Max Huang as Kung Lao. Max Huang might have entered the film business as a stunt guy with Jackie Chan's team, but in Mortal Kombat, he made sure nobody forgot who played Kung Lao. From fighting choreography to character presence, Huang nailed the role of the razor hat-wielding Shaolin monk who can split a man in half with one clean spin. Now, Kung Lao has always been an interesting contrast to Liu Kang. While Liu has been the chosen one and the poster boy for Earthrealm, Kung Lao walks around with a chip on his shoulder. He's a descendant of the great Kung Lao, the first Earthrealm champion who lost to Goro centuries ago, and that's haunted him since. In older versions of the story, he wanted peace and didn't care much for glory. But in the newer timelines, he's got something to prove. He wants to show he's not just Liu Kang's sidekick, or the other guy with kicks and fireballs. He's got skills, ego, and a damn lethal hat. Despite all the ego, there is a loyal warrior beneath the bravado. He'll fight to protect Earthrealm, even if he sort of grumbles about being second best. And when the moment comes, he doesn't hesitate. Whether it's lining someone up for a fatal hat slice or teleporting into the middle of a brawl, Kung Lao stays sharp. So yeah, these were all the confirmed characters and cast members from the upcoming movie.